Welcome back. Those just tuning in, we just finished up our matchup between the Grey Knights and the Death Guard with the final score. Grey Knights 88 to a Death Guard 85. Very, very tight, very close game. Came back in the very last turn, was able to burn your home field objective, and had the Paladins sweep your last squad of Plague Marines to get the assassination points I needed to push it ahead. All in all, though, this is still a victory for your list in the concept and design because of what you're trying to do. And as we've mentioned a couple times, your list is being built for a team tournament where differential matters. So in this matchup, going out of it for your team, you would have only dropped by 3 points in this. I don't know how their differential scoring works.
Oh, if it's less than 5 points, it's a tie. So you may think you won today, but it was actually a tie. So,
yeah, well, we're not in a team event,
right.
Singles, so.
But so it's.
Don't even try me. I broke my losing streak.
No, because it's for every 5 points a person wins by, they take 1 point from the other person's score. So it would have been a 10-10 tie as far as scoring. And I would be happy with that because I would just be focusing on not losing a bunch of points, scoring some. So I'm pretty happy with that result because you outmaneuvered me. You way outmoved my Death Guard, and you also outshot me. So the fact that I was able to hold on as well as I did, I'm pretty happy with that.
I felt a little clunky. I felt clunky with some of the plays I was making. I felt like afterwards I was starting to see stuff. I think it's a little bit of rust bouncing around from a couple armies. I haven't played Grey Knights for a little while. I played them, but back and forth. And the list I was playing before, I had really dialed in on the technique and the play style. And that was kind of a change up, and I felt kind of clunky with it. So I think I definitely need some reps with this to get it going. I feel like there was a couple times where after I was like, oh, why did I do that? Or, oh, why do this? Like, for example, my Dread Knight, he should have been missed the most out of the field and not at 1 wound. And having that Dread Knight later into the game would have been so much stronger than the interceptors that I picked up for what I was doing. Having that Dread Knight, I may have been able to push your Terminators back off the objective. Probably was a little too aggressive when I brought those Terminators in over there. After not, with what was remaining, I probably should have picked them up or just left them on the objective, backed them up a bit, and said, all right, I'm going to stay here. You're going to stay there. Let's just move to turn 5. So it was probably a little aggressive. I really wanted to try to remove the Terminators to get those characters when the last characters I was really going to take were going to be those Plague Marines. Being able to just drop in there. If I even had that extra command point, I could have been even nastier with it and landed on that objective marker, and where you only had a couple dudes left and probably taken 5 points away on primer. I don't know. You may have had more objective markers at that point. I'm not sure. But there was a lot more I could have done if I wasn't as clunky and didn't get as push into there as much.
Yeah, you've got 2 massive squads of 10-mana Terminators and 10-mana Paladins, both led by characters. That's probably more than half your points there in those 2 squads. So you definitely have to play them very carefully because if you misposition them or get them tied up in the wrong way, they can really throw off your game pretty easily. You're used to playing with like 4 or 5 of the Dread Knights, and that's quite a change only having 2 of them.
No, yeah, and I mean I liked it. I liked how it played and how it functioned. It's still some things that I'd like to possibly tweak in it. The Tech Marine was great. He did absolutely nothing, yet he did absolutely everything.
He got you 5 points.
He got over to that corner for engage and was like, all right, I'm going to sit here. Got it. Okay, now we're going to step over here. Oh, you need me over here. And he just literally just went back and forth over that line, scoring me points. Loved it. Great.
Well, it's like my Rhino scored me a bunch of points too, especially near the end.
I was trying to kill it.
Secure no man's land, and he burned an objective and area denial. The Rhino was huge for points.
That's why I was trying to take it out when I had the chance. But there was definitely a couple things I might tweak in the future. Give it a second run, swish around a bit, see how it tastes. Like I was discussing with you, I could break up the Paladins. I could drop one of the Interceptor squads and take a 3rd Grandmaster and then take 2 5-mans of Paladins. And that would be, in one hand, I'd lose some of the resilience, but in another hand, I'd gain more board presence. So I don't know. This with the 10-man Paladins was really nice. The only thing that they were struggling with was actually there really wasn't much they were struggling with. I mean, they got hit, they hit back, they shot, they did everything that I needed them to do. I mean, there is the question of should I go over to Psy Cannons? 6 Psy Cannons in there, but I feel like the Incinerators have their own role with Overwatch to just stick with those for right now.
I think if you do all Psy Cannons, between both the Terminators and the Paladins, I think it would be a step down. You want to have that variety. You don't have your Purifiers in there.
No, and that's kind of where they replaced too. Yeah. That was kind of the whole idea with them. So, I mean, we'll leave it alone. I might mess with it a little bit. I want to look at some of the points with the Imperial Agent stuff, just to look at what is some possible cheap options. Right now, it did not look very good. Like there was a lot of cheap options to take. But one of the other things was instead of the Tech Marine taking a Brotherhood Champion to have first strike on the Strike Marines, and then if not necessary, bounce them around. But I think Tech Marine's where it's at. Because if you didn't take him down, that Tech Marine was going to heal that dude for D3 wounds. Yeah. And then I was going to start, and then he was going to just run in there, shooting, just tank shocking, hammer, and hit the Terminators. And
I know what they do.
Yeah, from what we've seen, he was able to do work to the Terminators. So, now, one of the things that was definitely a change in your list that we discussed before, the Hellbrute. How'd you like him?
I don't know. I think it might be better to just take one Carnivore. Another Carnivore instead, because he has the extra movement. He only has like a 6-inch move, I think. So he's just not very. And even though he has 2-up armor, he's only got 8 wounds. So it's just not. It's not as durable as a Carnivore. And like I said, I like the extra movement the Carnivore has. And I don't think him putting things to the Contagion was super relevant in this game.
Well, that's because I shut it down with 2 of the major units he wanted to.
Yeah.
But
he slapped pretty well in combat. I mean, he picked up 10 of your Strike Marines over the course of the couple turns. So I think he made his points in terms of what he killed, but he's just limited.
And I think it was the reason that Dread Knight got dropped down to 1 wound, because by him doing that, he increased it for everything else that was smacking that Dread Knight. Yeah. Putting a base on the invul in that entire time frame. So I do still think there's some value behind that. I think that it's a really nice position. I think you have the 2 Carnivores on the flank that are fine. Perfectly fine. But if you mean another Carnivore still is another combat threat.
Yeah, the Carnivore is OC8. So if I need to park him on my home field objective, I can. And then whatever people deep strike in there, most of that stuff is low, like OC1 type 5-man squads. They're trying to take my objective away from me, so they just won't be able to. So I feel like he'd be better for just parking on my home field objective if I needed something to do that.
Interesting. So how long do you have before you have the tournament? When's the tournament?
It's the 7th and 8th, so I think I have to have my list in by the 30th. Or no, the 2nd. I have to have my list in by the 2nd. So I got another week or so here to tweak some things and tune some things a little bit. And see
so you got one more matchup where you can play me with Necrons.
Right.
So
hit me with that Canoptic Court.
How would you feel with this list as far as the tournament is concerned? Would you feel you need firepower to go into like a singles?
If I did a singles, I would take like 4 or 5 squads of Nurglings, and then I would just take fixed objectives. I would do cleanse and then engage all fronts. Nurglings are OC0, but they still count for engage all fronts. So between the Nurglings, deep striking, and infiltrating, I've got a lot of early game, engage all fronts. The Carnivores moving 14 inches, they would give me good engage. And then I just put Death Shroud Terminators and Plague Marines on objectives.
What would you take out for the Nurglings?
Probably a squad of the Cultists, and I don't know, a few other things. They're only like 40 points, I think, for Nurglings, so I'd play around with a little bit, see what I want to do. But yeah, maybe 1 or 2 characters. If I'm going into fix with them, then it would be a little bit different.
Oh, maybe we'll get to see that, because I definitely want to rematch with my Berserkers once I get my World Eaters finished up, which I've been working on. I'm making progress.
All right.
So, all right. Well, I think that about wraps it up today. Again, final score: Grey Knights with the 88. Broke my losing streak. So that's everything. That's 88 to 85. 3 points. I win. You lose. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you again soon.